The small cafe on the corner had always been a safe haven for locals, a place where neighbors gathered and stories were shared. For single mom Sarah, it was more than just a business. It was her dream, filled with years of hard work and love. But that peace was shattered when a group of local thugs began harassing her, demanding protection money and threatening to destroy everything she had built. Sarah, though scared, refused to back down. Little did the bullies know, she wasn't alone in this fight. Sarah had a hidden support system. Her brother and his Marine Corps combat team, a group of highly trained veterans who would do anything to protect their own. As tensions escalated, the cafe became the unexpected battleground for a clash between intimidation and unyielding resolve. What happened next would leave everyone stunned and teach the thugs a lesson they'd never forget. Sarah had always been known for her kindness, but standing up to the thugs was testing her limits. Every night, after locking up the cafe, she would double-check the doors, her heart racing at every creak and shadow outside. Her son, 10-year-old Ethan, noticed her fear and tried to stay brave, but Sarah could see the worry in his eyes. The threats weren't just words. Broken windows and graffiti served as constant reminders of the danger lurking. Unwilling to involve the police yet, Sarah confided in her brother, Jake, a former Marine who had returned home after years of service. Jake listened quietly, his face calm but his jaw tightening with every detail. Sarah didn't realize just how much Jake had kept in touch with his old Marine team. Calls were made, plans began forming, and soon, quiet but formidable allies started showing up at the cafe, blending in with the customers, waiting for the right moment. The thugs returned one evening, louder and bolder than before, banging on the cafe's door just as Sarah was closing up. Ethan peeked from the kitchen, his small frame trembling as he whispered, "Mom, don't open it." Sarah's hands shook, but she stood firm, refusing to let them see her fear. "We don't have what you're looking for," she called out, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. Across the street, Jake sat in his truck, watching the scene unfold. He gave a subtle nod to a man sitting at a nearby bench, one of his Marine buddies. Unbeknownst to the thugs, Sarah's cafe was no longer an easy target. Inside, two other veterans sipped coffee, blending in as ordinary customers, but ready to act at a moment's notice. As tensions outside escalated, the thugs began to notice something strange. The cafe wasn't as quiet as it used to be. Strangers, seemingly unconnected, were always around, observing, waiting. The thugs exchanged uneasy glances, sensing a shift they couldn't yet understand. Meanwhile, Sarah's resolve grew stronger, knowing she wasn't alone. But the real test was coming, and no one knew how far things would go. The night was unusually quiet when the thugs decided to make their move. They arrived in a group, their intentions clear as they surrounded the cafe. Sarah was inside with Ethan, her heart pounding as she watched their shadows stretch across the windows. She quickly locked the doors, her hands shaking, and grabbed her phone to text Jake. Outside, the thugs laughed, banging on the glass. "Last chance, lady. Open up or we'll do it for you," one of them shouted. Sarah stayed silent, clutching Ethan close, trying to calm his racing heart while her own felt ready to burst. What the thugs didn't know was that Jake and his team were already in position. Jake gave a silent signal, and his Marine brothers began to close in, moving quietly through the shadows. Inside, Sarah watched as figures emerged from seemingly nowhere, surrounding the thugs. The air was thick with tension as everyone braced for the inevitable showdown. Just as Jake and his team closed in, the leader of the thugs smirked and pulled out his phone. "You think we came here alone?" he sneered, holding the device up like a trophy. Moments later, the sound of revving engines echoed down the street. Two more cars pulled up, their occupants stepping out with the same menacing confidence. The reinforcements joined the group, now outnumbering the Marines. Inside the cafe, Sarah's heart sank as she peeked out the window. Jake had prepared for trouble, but this was more than anyone expected. The thugs shouted threats, emboldened by their growing numbers, and the tension outside crackled like static in the air. Jake's expression didn't waver, but his voice was firm as he spoke into his radio. "Hold your positions. We adapt." His calm was unshakable, but Sarah could see the weight of the moment in his eyes. This wasn't just about the cafe anymore. It was a battle of will, strategy, and resolve, and the stakes had never been higher. The tension was at its peak as the reinforcements joined the thugs, their confidence growing with every sneer and shout. Jake's team held their positions, their years of training keeping them steady. But then, an unexpected sound broke through the chaos: sirens. Unbeknownst to Jake or Sarah, one of the cafe's regulars, an elderly man who lived nearby, had seen the commotion and called the police. The thugs hesitated, their bravado cracking as flashing lights approached. Jake used the moment of confusion to step forward, his voice calm but commanding. "You have two choices. Walk away now or deal with more than just us." Before the thugs could respond, another unexpected twist unraveled. The leader's phone buzzed with a call, and his face dropped. Apparently, their so-called backup had run into trouble of their own: flat tires, disabled cars. Thanks to a few strategic moves Jake had quietly orchestrated earlier. Realizing they were cornered, the thugs began retreating just as the police arrived to take control. Sarah stepped outside, her voice firm as she declared, "Don't come back. This is the last time you threaten my family." As the thugs were escorted away, Jake turned to Sarah with a faint smile. "Told you we had your back." But just when it seemed the danger had passed, a familiar face emerged from one of the police cars. A former acquaintance of Jake's from his service days, someone with ties to the very gang that had targeted Sarah. The unresolved look between them left Sarah wondering if this was truly the end, or just the beginning of another chapter. As the police cars disappeared into the night, the street outside the cafe finally fell silent. Sarah took a deep breath, the weight of the ordeal slowly lifting. Inside, Ethan hugged her tightly, whispering, "We're safe now, right?" She nodded, stroking his hair, determined to make their home feel secure again. Jake stayed back to check on Sarah, his Marine team dispersing quietly after ensuring everything was in order. "You're stronger than you think," he told her, pride evident in his voice. Sarah smiled, her gratitude unspoken but deeply felt. The next morning, the cafe buzzed with life again, the community rallying around Sarah with warm smiles and reassuring words. Though the shadow of the past night lingered, Sarah felt a new sense of strength. She knew challenges might come again, but with her family, friends, and the unwavering support of Jake and his team, she was ready for anything.